I want you to imagine something very uncomfortable. You are broke, but you don't fix it with luck. You don't fix it with motivation. You don't fix it with a new job. You fix it with something painfully small. $100 every month for 10 years. No skipping, no excuses, no, I'll do it next month. Just discipline. And here's the part that sounds almost insulting at first. It doesn't change your life immediately. It doesn't feel powerful. It doesn't feel like anything is happening at all. In fact, for a long time, it feels stupid. Because when you look at $100, your brain tells you, this is too small to matter. But that's exactly where the story begins. Because the most dangerous thing about small actions is that they don't look important while they are building something massive in the background. And I didn't realize that until 10 years later, when I finally opened the account and saw what this small decision actually became. And I just sat there, not happy, not excited, just quiet, because I realized something I didn't expect. I wasn't looking at money anymore. I was looking at time, turned into discipline. It didn't start with inspiration. There was no life-changing moment, no motivational speech, no YouTube video that suddenly fixed everything. It started with frustration, the kind of frustration you don't talk about, the quiet kind, where you check your bank account and don't feel panic, but something worse, numbness, because nothing is changing. You work, you earn, you spend, and somehow you end up in the same place every month. That was my life. And one day I realized something very uncomfortable. I was not bad with money. I was just inconsistent with discipline. So I made a decision that felt almost too simple to matter. I wrote it down. I will save $100 every month, no matter what. Not when I feel like it, not when I have extra money, not when life is easy. Every single month. Even if it hurts a little, even if it feels pointless, even if nothing changes. And the strange thing is, it did feel pointless at the beginning because there's no reward, no dopamine, no excitement, just repetition. But I didn't know yet that repetition is the only thing that survives time. The first 3 months were easy because everything new feels easy. You feel like you're becoming someone better, someone disciplined, someone different. And that feeling is powerful, but also temporary. At the end of month 1, I had $100. At the end of month 2, $200. At the end of month 3, $300. And I remember thinking something very dangerous. This is too slow. Not because it wasn't working, but because my expectations were completely unrealistic. I wanted change to feel visible. I wanted progress to feel exciting. But saving money doesn't do that. Saving money is silent. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't reward you early. It just accumulates. And accumulation is invisible at the beginning. That's why most people quit here, because they mistake slow for not working. But slow is exactly how real things are built. After 1 year, I had $1,200. And this is where something changed mentally, because $1,200 sounds like progress, but feels like nothing. It's not enough to change your life. It's not enough to create freedom. It's just a small buffer, a fragile one. And that's when doubt starts creeping in. Not loudly, quietly, like a thought in the background. Is this even worth it? Because your brain always compares effort to reward. And at this stage, the reward looks too small. But what I didn't realize then was this. I was not building wealth. I was building identity. Every $100 was a vote for a future version of me that doesn't quit, even when nothing is happening, even when nobody is watching, even when it feels meaningless. Nobody tells you about the boring years, because nobody wants to watch them. But this is where everything actually happens. Years 2, 3, 4. They are almost identical. Nothing dramatic changes. No breakthroughs. No emotional highs. Just repetition. Month after month. $100, $100, $100. And life keeps happening in the background. Rent increases. Unexpected expenses appear. Friends spend money. You see other people moving faster. And you start questioning your own path. Not because it is wrong, but because it is slow. and slow feels like failure when you don't understand compounding yet. There were moments I almost stopped, moments where I thought, this is pointless. But the strange thing is, I never actually stopped, not once. Even when I wanted to, even when it made no logical sense, even when I was tired, I still did it. And that's where the shift begins. There's a moment in every long discipline where nothing feels rewarding anymore, not because you stopped progressing, but because your brain adapted. And that's exactly what happened around year 3 for me. At first, saving $100 felt like a challenge, then it became a habit, and then it became something worse. Routine. Routine removes emotion, and without emotion, you stop feeling progress. I was still doing everything correctly, still saving $100 every month, still not skipping, still following the same rule. But inside my head, something changed. It started feeling like I was running in place. I would look at my balance and think, this is it? 3 years of discipline, and I still can't feel the difference. And that's when the dangerous thoughts came back. Not the dramatic ones, the subtle ones, like maybe I should invest in something riskier. Maybe I should spend it instead. Maybe this approach is too slow for my life. Because when progress is invisible, doubt becomes very loud. But I didn't stop, even though I wanted to, even though it felt meaningless, even though nobody would notice if I quit. I still continued. And I didn't know it yet. But this phase is where most people break. Something strange happens when you repeat something long enough. You stop noticing it, but it doesn't stop growing. That's the trap of consistency. It looks like nothing is happening until everything suddenly looks different. Around year 4, I noticed something I couldn't explain, not in my bank account, but in myself. I stopped questioning the $100. It became automatic, like brushing my teeth. No negotiation, no emotion, no resistance. And that's when I realized something important. The money wasn't the main product anymore. The habit was. Because habits don't just store money, they store behavior. And behavior compounds faster than anything else in your life. I wasn't just saving $100 anymore. I was becoming someone who does not break commitments, even small ones, even invisible ones, even when nobody cares. And that version of me started showing up in other parts of life too. Work, discipline, decisions, focus. Everything slowly became more stable. Not because I was trying harder, but because I had built a baseline identity. Something unexpected happened around year 5. I stopped caring about monthly progress. Not because I lost interest, but because it became predictable. And predictability is powerful. Because when something becomes predictable, you stop emotional reacting to it. I already knew, every month, $100 added. No surprises, no excitement, no disappointment, just accumulation. But something else started changing. I started thinking in years instead of months. And that shift changes everything. Because most people live in short-term cycles. They measure progress in days, weeks, maybe months. But discipline doesn't live in short cycles. It lives in long timelines. And once your brain accepts a long timeline, you stop making emotional decisions. And that's when I started doing something new. I stopped thinking, what will happen this month? And started thinking, what will this look like in 10 years? That question changes behavior completely. At some point, I realized saving alone was not enough. Not because saving is bad, but because saving without growth has a ceiling. So I started investing, carefully, slowly, without trying to be smart. I didn't chase trends. I didn't try to beat the market. I didn't try to time anything. I just added consistency on top of consistency. $100 a month, but now with growth attached to it. And this is where things started changing quietly, not suddenly, not dramatically, but structurally. Because now my money wasn't just sitting, it was moving, it was working. And I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I had entered a completely different phase. The phase where time becomes more important than effort. The 10th year didn't feel special at first. There was no celebration, no emotional moment, no sense that something big was about to happen. It was just another month, another $100, another deposit. But this time, Something inside me was different because I wasn't the same person who started this. The version of me that began this challenge was doing it out of frustration, but the version of me now was doing it out of identity. And that changes everything. Because discipline is easy to start, but identity is what keeps you going when motivation disappears completely. So I decided something simple. I would finally check everything, not casually, not quickly, but fully. For the first time in years, I opened the entire account history. At first, I expected something simple. I expected a clean number, something like $12,000, maybe a little more if investments worked well. Something logical, something predictable. But when the page loaded, I didn't react immediately. I just stared. Because the number wasn't what I expected. It was bigger, not just slightly, noticeably. And what surprised me even more wasn't the amount itself. It was how calm I felt looking at it. No excitement, no shock, just understanding. Because in that moment, I realized something important. This was never about money. It was about proof. Proof that small actions don't stay small. They multiply quietly. They grow without permission, and they only reveal themselves after time has already passed. Most people think discipline is about money, or success, or results. But that's not true. Discipline is about trust. Trust between who you are now and who you promised you would become. And I realized something even deeper. The $100 was never the important part. I could have saved $50, or $20, or even less. It wouldn't have changed the outcome as much as I thought. What mattered was consistency over time, because time is the real multiplier. Not effort, not intelligence, not motivation, just time. And most people underestimate time because it doesn't show immediate results. But time is always working, even when you are not paying attention, especially when you're not paying attention. So here's the truth. If you came here expecting a story about money, this is not it, because the money was never the point. The point was this. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 month and completely underestimate what they can become in 10 years. I didn't change my life in 1 moment. I didn't find a shortcut. I didn't discover a secret. I just did something extremely small for an extremely long time without stopping. And in the end, that is what created everything. Not intensity, not luck, not timing, just consistency. And if there is one thing I want you to take from this, it's this. Small actions don't stay small. They compound into identity. And identity determines everything that comes after.